Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video, and today we are going to talk about Trust Stones, aka TMR materia, that is coming to the global game this Wednesday, and it's game-changing. This is one of the biggest changes that War of the Visions has ever gotten. We're going to be able to take our TMRs that you see on the screen here and make them into just godlike items. Like, the best items in this game are going to be fully decked out TMRs with 6 TMR runes on them, TMR stones, trust stones, whatever you want to call them, materia. Doesn't matter what you call them. They're really, really good. Now, I failed to record this video many times because there's a lot of info here, but Hiroki said something in the live stream that I think is really important. He said the best way to learn about these is to get your hands on them, and I agree. However, I do think there's some things you can know before you go into this that could prevent you from making some pretty big mistakes, and it kind of give you a feel for what you're going for. So I'm going to show you the potential of trust stones in this video. I'm going to talk about some good TMRs that I think would be excellent candidates to get just massively tweaked out with trust stones. And I'm going to show you what stacks and what doesn't stack, because in that is where you can avoid making the big mistakes. Okay, first up, let me show you a piece of gear that can become insane. This is the Crimson Rapier. It's already a piece of gear that I run on my tanks all the time because it has 8% slash resist on it, and that's pretty good. Look at the trust stones though. Look at all those stats that you see on the screen, and this weapon is getting every bit of everything you see because it's properly built. Real quick, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but real quick, just from the left-hand side, that left-hand column right there, right here, this one right here, this stone, and this stone. This is harder to do than it looks. This stone, boop, those three, I'm getting 7% of every elemental resist. And because I ran main stat, my finger's going to cut off before, yeah, main stat, you see it, HP, I'm also getting all elemental resist 5% at the bottom. That means this sword is giving me 12% resist to every element. Find me a tank who does not want that. That's insane. You just have to be careful that these things don't overlap because of what stacks. But all of the stats, you see the main stat and the substats on each rune, you get all of that. Everything that's in those boxes, you get. So let me highlight that. Here's main stats and substats in that little green box. Everything in those green boxes, you get all of it. So you want as much of those as you can get. Now, the runes on this page are maxed out because I'm using the builder on WoTVCalc.com and I'm just hitting max the rune out. You won't typically get max substats on each one of your runes. Instead, like this one, for example, has substats HP, TP, and crit evade. What I would do before leveling this up is pick which substat I cared about the most, probably HP or crit evade in this case, and you can re-roll the starting value on there, and I would re-roll it until HP was the highest starting number, and then I'd level it up and have a pretty good chance that my HP would max out. You can re-roll those stats for gil. It's like 100,000 gil a time. This is the part where you just need to get your hands on it in game to kind of feel out that process. And of course, I will fully make a rune or a trust stone. It's really hard for me to not call them runes. I will fully make a trust stone in my next video. Probably I'll make it on Wednesday and show you the whole process, right? But just know you get all those stats. Now, what doesn't stack? That's these red boxes right here. Notice that top, that big red box, this sword already has slash resistance 8% on it. The passives that you get from your stones, which the highlighted one here is dark resist and fire resist, will not stack with the same passive in the effects big red box right there, right? So if the big red box was dark resist and the small red box also had dark resist, you would just get the higher value of the two. You would not get both. So it's important right here that I have different things. Notice I have slash resistance in the big red box and then elemental resist in the small red box. Those will go together no problem. Think of the passives as just going up into the effects box of the weapon. That's how I think about it, and that's how you need to think about it when you're building your trust stones so you don't accidentally lose a whole bunch of value. The ability to get 2 passives on a trust stone, by the way, is not super obvious. This is another thing that I'm going to show off in future videos, but it involves building a trust stone with the passive you want, moving that passive off onto like a holder trust stone, then building a new trust stone that you like that has the correct passive on it. Then you can move it, the one that you saved, back on there to have two. It's going to be a bit of a process. And again, I had a really hard time making a video about this without having in the client to show you what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to show you that these will, the same buffs here will not stack. You need to do different ones. And that includes, like, if I go back to this screen, notice on the left-hand column, I have each element on there. I couldn't do dark resist 6 times. Instead, I did dark fire, wind, water, ice, lightning. It would obviously be way too broken if I could do 7% light resist 6 times. You would just make a completely anti-light piece of gear, and it would, like, Thancred's armor would have 100% light resist on it. That would be insane. Okay, something else to call out. And I'm going to go to the third picture here. This one. Wow, that's the bottom part of this. The group effects. This is a whole new thing. Group effects from your Trustmaster runes will stack with anything. You're going to get this buff no matter what. Because the main stat on my left runes was HP, I'm going to get an additional HP 5% from this group effect, and all elemental resist 5%. If you look at the right side here, where I get that agility 3, that's because on the right side of my runes, and I'll go back to this picture here so it's not dark, main stat agility on the far right side runes, I have that on 2 of them. If you have 2 of the same main stat runes, you get 1 of the group effects in this box right here. If I would have had all 3 main stat agility, I would have gotten the second group effect. So the reason I show that off is two reasons. One, know that if every one of your main stats is the same, you will get 2 bonus group effects. If only 2 of your main stats are the same, you will only get 1 bonus group effect. On the left side here, these are the defensive runes. On the right side is the offensive runes. Yes, as you're looking at it. So like the main stat agility rune, those are the offensive runes. The main stat HP runes, those are the defensive runes. So 3 same defensive runes, 2 bonus buffs. 3 main offensive runes, 2 bonus buffs. I think that makes sense, right? Okay, let me go now into the game again, and I want to talk about some potential really good TMRs that I haven't heard necessarily talked about yet. One of them we talked about on stream today, because actually right now Twitch chat's in here watching this. Snuggles. Snuggles is a really good piece of raid gear because you can cast the Sneaky Snuggles buff, and I just got this piece of gear today. The Sneaky Snuggles buff. This will give a unit unit attack resist down for 2 turns with a critical hit, so you can lower the unit attack resist of like a raid boss or a trials boss or something for massive chaining. Okay, the problem with this piece of gear is it doesn't really have any stats up here besides crit that you care about for a big PvE event. With Trust Stones, you can add a ton of attack to this. You can add a ton of magic to this. You can add a ton, you can just make this item into whatever you kind of want it to be with the Trust Stones. By the way, this is Halloween Frederica's TMR. Somebody in chat just asked, where does this come from? This is Halloween Frederica's TMR. So don't sleep on this one. It's already a super good piece of raid gear. You can make it into a piece of raid gear that really boosts your damage a lot with Trust Stones. And I'll kind of go through a little bit more of Trust Stones here in a minute. I also want to shout out weapons, because weapons, I think, will be the #1 most Trust Stoned out pieces of gear in this game. And let's look at the Savage King's Great Axe. This is Moraga's axe, and as you guys know, we don't have a ton of axes in the game. This one has a really cool effect on it of initial AP up 25. This is really good because you could make a Trust Stone set that gave you like slash attack up, that gave you AP consumption down. You could add buffs to that through the Trust Stones that stacked really nicely with an AP up 25 weapon that already has a base attack of 203. I already use this piece of gear all the time for my axe users because it's honestly the best axe I have. I can make it into a god tier axe now through Trust Stones. Okay, another piece of gear that I think is super good for this, and there's so many. There's so many. Obviously, bells, Oldoa's apron, stuff like that. People are going to be tweaking those out, glinting armor, but some hidden gems. I would call a hidden gem Adelard sword. If I can find it here real quick. Here it is, Vermilion sword. this gives magic attack up on a sword. So red mages, right? They do jamming thrust, and jamming thrust is an awesome move. This is the only sword in the game that actually boosts that damage. Problem with it is it only has 96 magic on it. That's kind of weak. Now you can add a ton of magic to it through rune stones. Did I say it right? Trust stones? Trust stones. I combined JP and global into rune stones. Anyway, trust stones, you can make this really awesome. So that's the potential here, right? Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to just show you an example of building a stone. You can go to WoTV Calc right now. And let me go to WoTV Calc real quick. Here we go. You can go to WoTV Calc right now on the JP side and mess with the system a little bit. So I'm going to click customize on this defensive trust stone. And what I want to show you is the skills, right? These are those buffs. If you have 3, so okay, a main stat HP, substats HP, TP, crit evade. The passives are what you will randomly get for casting or for making a trust stone. If I customize this right here and go to change skill, you can get basically any defensive stat you want. Evasion, critical evade, elemental resist, attack type resist, status effect resist, paralyze. They're all in here, right? Slash resist, slow resist, stun resist. There's so many of them. HP up, you could add even more HP to this piece of gear, etc. So you can get a ton of different ones here. The thing I want to point out, notice how I'm with lightning resist. I could either get 2 to 3% up, 3 to 5% up, or 4 to 7% up. When you craft a trust stone, and again, I'll show this off in the video, you will randomly get one of these. If it's not the one that you want, if it's not the 4 to 7%, you need to recraft it. And you can actually recraft them many times in game. You don't lose materials, it just costs you some gil, so keep that in mind. But with the defensive stones, you can get so many different ones. With the build here, you can see I went with dark fire, wind, water, ice, lightning resist to get all the elemental resists. With the attack type stones, it's kind of the same idea, except they are the attack skills. So I have acquired AP up on here, just kind of show that off. I think that's good for a tanking piece of gear. You could go for attack up, you could go for activation time down, strike attack, slash attack, whatever. It's all of the different offensive passive abilities from weapons, basically. Again, just remember, those do not stack with the effect that is already on the weapon. Another example I built that I think is really good is Oldoa's TMR. It already has a really good skill on it, right? The effect is a skill, AP restore with defense pin. What I did was I added agility to it through the offensive stones. And then if you do 3 agility offensive stones, you also get another 3 agility in the bottom. So this is now a 6 agility piece of gear. This is awesome because this didn't have agility on it before and I really like that. Then I added magic resist, missile resist, slash resist, pierce resist, light resist, strike resist to it. So it has all the resist. This would just make a, like Eileen, that much better. You can go to wotvcalc.com right now and play with all this stuff. Just be aware that if you go here, it won't stop you from making mistakes. So like, for example, if you accidentally made some passives that would not have stacked with the TMR you're tweaking out, WoTV Calc won't stop you from doing that. And it will actually look like you can make ridiculously broken things like Thancred's TMR with 100 light resist on it. Can't do that. They don't stack. That's the little warning there. And I hope this video made some sense, right? This is going to be the first video in the series. It's just an introduction, kind of show off what you can do with trust stones. Much more to come. Much more to come. Okay, thank you guys for watching. This video is already 13 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits right there. I'll catch you next time. Peace.